Hi, this is Lori from Interior Design Community and To the Trade, and I have an exciting guest today. We're talking with Sarah. Sarah, introduce yourself, your company. I'm so excited for our members and designers to meet you and find out all about your business because I think you're fascinating, and I'm excited to jump in and ask questions.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Sarah Brohm. I own the company UA Designs. We're a full service residential interior design company.
Yes, and your work is gorgeous, by the way. I really want to have everyone, we'll put your website into our podcast because everyone should go check you out. One of the things that I thought was incredibly fascinating when I was looking at your background is that you were a registered nurse before you came an interior designer. How did you make that transition and what compelled you to make that transition?
So it's actually a long story. I'll give you as truncated a version as possible. So I actually ended up, I always wanted, as a 12-year-old girl, wanted to be an interior designer, wanted to be an architect. But I ended up, by the time I was 16, I ended up having my oldest son. And so I had to drop out of high school. I went right to nursing school, which was a great profession for me for a period of time. I worked med-surg oncology and then I worked gastroenterology. While I was in GI, I was doing interior design work on the side. And that really it was a passion project for me. I didn't ever think it was going to become a large company like we are today, but we ended up having clients really before I knew what I was doing, and that compelled me to kind of build a process and build a company around the things that I did know. And so the transferable skills from nursing to interior design were things like building a process, being able to multitask, dealing with difficult people, being in like an intimate setting with someone. We're in people's homes. When you're in the hospital, you're also dealing with, very personal issues. So I was able to kind of take those skills and we started out in the flipping arena and we ended up doing a lot of flips. It taught me a lot about building code, timing, how to manage a budget, how to manage, people who were really under a lot of pressure. And then we transitioned into more luxury interior design over the years. And we've now kind of built our structure around that initial how to create a good experience. Because a lot of the time we feel like design, 10% of the project at the beginning is interior design and 10% at the end is interior design, but there's 80% in the middle that's process driven. So we
I
try
love.
to focus on that for a good experience for the client.
So, how did you build that process for yourself? Because I think that that is something that so many designers struggle with. It's hard to commit to a process. I think that's the biggest part, right? You get into this world and it's your passion and you want to do it and you want to do it well and you're looking at everyone else. There's so many options, but at the same time it's also feels like there everywhere you look there's closed doors. You don't really know what anyone else is charging. You don't really know how this business works. A lot of it seems secretive. How did
Yeah.
you navigate that?
Well, I mean, we had to be willing to take a process and throw it out. So there's some core things that we have kept consistently is just the really clear communication with our contractors. So like, what is it? Trying to think ahead of how is the project going to be built? What is the next thing that they're going to need? So that way we get ahead of their questions and then that avoids potential questions to the client. We don't want anything funneling through the client. We want to already have thought it through, thought about how is that tile going to go in? What are the roughs that are going to be in the wall? What's the phase in the project that we're in? So we do create, selections lists and management tools, and we have job site codes, and we have all these trackers. So just trying to stay ahead of that, I think, is a big thing. But we are constantly tweaking our process. We want the client our target market is two busy professionals. So a lot of the time, we don't want to bother them with the minutia. So we're trying to think and get ahead of those details.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that is very clear to me after interviewing hundreds of designers and talking to and moderating hundreds of panels over the last 13 years. I can tell you the designers who are at the top of their game have one thing in common that I can see, and that's their process is never finished. They're always, anytime there's a problem, you're looking at it strategically and thinking, how were we part of that problem and how can we change our system so that problem doesn't happen again, right?
Exactly.
I think that that is really fascinating to me. And you say you do 50 distinctive projects a year. Are those whole home renovations? Are those partial renovations? What does that look like for you?
We're about 15 whole homes a
Oh,
year.
15. Okay.
Yeah, and
That's
then the other
fantastic.
projects are
That's a huge load. I
it
mean,
is
that
a load.
15 whole homes
Yeah, because
is
with for
quite
any renovation, 15, 15 projects, it could be 15,000 details. And so
right.
trying to find a way to keep track of that, so that by the time we're at that initial walkthrough, once the framing is in place, the design should be complete at that point. So we're just checking and confirming and dry fitting the cabinetry and making sure everything is going well. And then we kind of seamlessly, it gives us an opportunity while the house is actually in construction to liaison into, well, how do you want to furnish the house and how do you want to do your window treatments? And let's think about that next layer and how can we make this project come alive for you? So, but yeah, 15 whole homes. And then we do renovation projects as well. So if someone comes and has a 1980s bathroom that they want to update, we're there for them to help them walk through that process. And sometimes that can be more challenging because you're in a home that someone's residing in. And so, how do you have a minimal footprint and a minimum downtime for that client? And so, that's the efficiency is just as important there.
Yes, absolutely. And as you navigated that and you were looking at these different models that you saw existing out there in the interior design world, there's flat fee, there's hourly. How did you make your selection about how you were going to bill clients and has that evolved at all?
It hasn't really evolved for me. I think I never wanted to charge my clients a retainer model because it's a creative industry for me. And so it could take me 3 hours to find the perfect light fixture. It could take me 10 hours to find the perfect light fixture. And I don't want to bill the client for that time. So what I do, I take it's a law of averages. So we break down our design fee. It's a calculation of how many hours we think the project is going to take us. And we multiply that by our design fee based on whatever scope of work the client and I have determined in advance. And then that's our price. And then within that, they have their initial design that we present to them and 2 revisions. And so that's kind of how we break that down. And it seems to be working. We are able to, there's very few times that we have to charge the client more for additional revisions. But there are those cases too. We do feel like as we begin the design process, we are also interviewing the client, and that really helps us.
Yeah.
So when we go in, we know that our budget is aligned. I don't want to waste anyone's time and they don't want to waste mine. And I also know that that client trusts us. And the other indicator that I always put in there is that we're dealing with kind clients, making sure that they're treating us with respect like we would treat them.
That is also really a great indicator of success in my experience too. I was in a designer's office not too long ago, and she has a hard and fast rule that if those clients are rude to anyone on I mean, like there's rudeness to anyone in her staff, that is means to let that client go. Like there are limits. I mean, and she had some serious stories that went along with that, including a client who would not let one of her staff leave the house. I
No.
know. I know, I know. And these things happen. So what is when you do you basically your flat fee, correct?
Mhm.
Like that is how did you make sure that your profit margins are working when you do flat fee? How does that calculation really boil down for you?
Well, we are doing monthly analysis. Actually, weekly, we look at, kind of where we're at with our profitability. We do use EOS, which is Entrepreneur's Operating System, and that allows us. I don't know if anyone knows of this, but it's essentially a software and a program that you can move through. We have an integrator that helps us with it, but it is someone who helps us track key numbers in our industry. And so we are understanding exactly how much we're invoicing each week. We're understanding where we're at with our budget each week. We're understanding how our profitability is sitting each week. And that's really important because we've had to make price adjustments to our hourly rate. And then sometimes as the software has gotten more and more complicated, because now it's becoming standard practice to have photorealistic renderings of your room. And so we're not just working in CAD, we're also working in SketchUp and Enscape and all these other softwares, Revit. And so in order to allow for that, we've had to increase the amount of hours. So we are every once in a while, I think maybe about 3 to 6 months, we do a time basis where I have one or two people just track their hours. So that way we can get a gauge of how long is this really taking us. So that way we track that whole project and how many hours we spent to do that analysis to make sure that we're charging enough.
I don't know even know what to say. I'm in love with you because like I wish every designer would do this. You have no idea. I talk to designers all the time and process tools and workflow are just a passion of mine. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I didn't know my numbers. So I feel like that's definitely something in our industry that we need to get better at doing and really looking at the numbers and understanding it. And I'm okay with I don't really care really from a design perspective whether designers are flat fee, whether they're hourly, but whether they're profitable
Yeah.
is the most important part of it. Is at the end of the day, all of this passion and time and effort that you're putting in, are you paying yourself properly? Are
Mhm.
you insuring yourself
Yep.
properly? Do you have a 401(k)? Are you insured for health and business insurance? Is your contract up to date? All of those things are the things that I'm advocating for on a daily basis. So I love that you're doing that. How did you scale to that level? How did you get to that point where you could take on this many projects and the hiring process? How did that work out for you?
Well, I think we did a lot of analysis of like who our team is. So we have a couple key leaders in our team. So my head of purchasing is a key leader, and my operations manager, so she's actually director of operations. She'd be annoyed if I called her the wrong thing. And, we all did personality assessments. And so we kind of figured out what are we really good at. And then we tried to delegate and elevate to allow for that upward mobility so that I have more time to focus on sales, acquisitions, and marketing, where I don't need to be bogged down with the process. I need to be surrounded by it, and our company needs to have it, but I don't necessarily have to be the one wearing that hat. You don't want me, filling out an Excel spreadsheet or anything like that, or editing a document or looking at our contract. So we've outsourced a lot of those things. And then it allowed me to be able to do the things that I'm really good at. So selling my company, I think, is a really big part. And then I also think that the actual being the visionary and the designer on that, but I don't need to find every single selection. So I'll have my design team do a lot of that field work for me. And then they'll come back to me with different options. So we have a cabinetry division and then we have a decor division. And so what will happen is when they'll funnel up through me and I still make sure that that's working through the overall vision of the project, which is what I feel like I'm best at. And when you're sitting in the right seat, I feel like that just allows for, people, it's catching, all of a sudden people know you're doing the right thing and they want to be a part of that. So we haven't really had to do a ton of traditional marketing outside of Instagram or just me being a part of networking groups. That is something I'm always looking to explore, bettering in that area. But for the most part, I feel like if you have the right people in the right places, you're going to be successful. People and process.
Sure. Yeah. When you first started, were you looking at other design businesses? Were you trying to see like where am I going to fit in this market and how am I going to, differentiate myself? Like how am I going to stand out as a new designer coming into this industry? I mean, now you've got, 13 years under your belt, but when we first started, what was that like?
Well, I wasn't really looking at other interior designers because again, I started out in kind of a more, I would say a corporate
Flipping.
type, yeah,
Flip.
with flipping. It's a different industry. And
Right.
I wasn't really modeled. I didn't feel like I looked like anybody else. So I wasn't really looking at other interior design businesses. I was looking at other good businesses and seeing how I could apply those practices to my business. And it didn't necessarily have to be design specific. And I knew what I didn't want to be. I had met a handful of designers who I found, I hate to say it, but like were pompous and difficult to work with and or snooty or name droppers or, didn't want to talk to me because I didn't have a traditional background. So that was something that I was like, I don't want to be a snooty designer and I don't want to be, those are things I knew I didn't want to be. And then I did model myself just after having a good business. And I'm like, if I can be a good business person who doesn't, my business is interior design. Yes, you have to have that creative piece. But like I said, that's only 20% of what we do.
Right.
So then I thought we would be successful. So that was kind of how we structured it. And it's a lot of trial, like I mentioned earlier, it's a lot of trial and error. There were things we're like, well, we don't ever want to make that mistake again. So we're going to put that in our contract. We're going to avoid that situation. And at the end of the day, I wasn't afraid to fail or make mistakes because, and it's all time or money. I felt like anything could always be fixed or remedied. And we always stand behind our work and we're going to see that client all the way through no matter what. And so that was a big thing for us, just having integrity in the things that we're doing.
Absolutely. And honestly, for that work, I'm sensing great work ethic. Um, focus on business. And the other piece that I see that we aren't talking about yet is customer service and really trying to appeal to that client as someone who is their partner and handling things for them and giving them an experience. A lot of the words you're using are very customer service driven. How have you implemented that into even the culture of your design business?
Yeah, I do think that we always want to do right by the client. We don't we even offer a certificate of completion at the end because a lot of clients are afraid that we're going to drop off before the project is over. And we want them to know that, hey, we're in this with you. Our goals are aligned here. We want this space to be beautiful, just like you want this space to be beautiful. It's going to be our name on that and obviously our reputation. So, because of that, I think if you're working on the same team as someone, we are a service industry and we do try to provide those services. But I do feel like that camaraderie with the client is really, really key. Having that good rapport. We're not right fit for everybody, and that's okay. There might be a better fit out there for someone else who has different proclivities or different tastes or different needs. But we do feel like when we're in a project with someone, we're going to stick with it. We do try to offer little touches too, making sure that, if you were in this project, what questions would you be asking and how did that make you feel? And we have price transparency guarantees because I know I went through a couple renovations and I was getting hit with a bunch of change orders after the fact. And I'm like, I don't want to do that to my client. So I'm going to make sure that they don't have that experience. And so we've learned from experiences we've really enjoyed and we've tried to implement those processes.
I love that. So, how are you handling? This is such an odd time with the economy. How are you handling the tariffs, the changes that are coming in, and how are you transitioning that to keep your clients informed? Are they receiving it well? I mean, it's just such a tough time right now.
Yeah, it is a really odd time. I do think that it's kind of understood that it's affecting everybody. So I
Sure.
haven't gotten a ton of, you know, like, how could you possibly charge more? They're like, no, we get it. We see it at the grocery store and we see it on Amazon and we see it everywhere. So that helps a little bit. We are really working to just, again, pass through that information to them as soon as we know. And we've also gotten ahead of a few price increases before they hit. So we'll say, hey, this is going to hit on such and such a day. Let's try to get this in by this date. And that's at least shown some effort on our part, and the clients tend to appreciate that. But most of the time we do pass it through, and we are fortunate enough that we're a luxury industry, so we have luxury clients. And so they're not always as affected as, you or I, the layperson. They're living.
Sure, absolutely. So what are you doing to stay current? Do you go to a lot of the trade events? Are you staying in touch with your vendors more? How do you stay on top of like pushing the edge of design and maybe staying ahead of it so that you're not putting in anything? I mean, it's such a long process design, right? And so it's very important for designers to be forward thinking. Things that came in, especially because people are scrolling online all day long,
Yeah.
trends are moving faster than they ever have before. How do you stay on top of all of that?
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the trends and how quickly they're moving through. We have clients who we worked with 10 years ago that are re-renovating their house because a 10-year lifespan seems to be where we're at with design. So, I mean, that's great for our industry, but it is meaning that we have to be on top of things. I do find the trade shows very valuable. We were there. We didn't get a chance to go this fall, but we did go in the spring. And it's just so inspiring. It's just so fun to see all the products and the fabrics. And I haven't thought of that. And that's what I feel like we could do better in our industry is we could collaborate off of each other. I love having additional creatives involved in my industry. I love having other designers because I might have one half of a good idea and then someone else in my team might have that other half. And so my team does go monthly to try to go to either networking events or learning opportunities. We try to do continuing education. We have lunch and learns where we host them in our studio. So that way, everyone, even if they're not working in the cabinetry division, they can understand cabinetry so that when they're designing the furniture around the cabinetry, they know how it works. So to make sure that the placement of the furniture makes sense, have weekly blasts where if you've learned something great, if you've made a mistake or you have a question, we try to blast that out to our group to make sure that everyone is hearing that question so they have an opportunity to learn. We go to High Point, we go to the Kitchen and Bath Show. I'm interested in going to the design event in Milan this year. That's my next big one. We do have a new cabinetry vendor over there, so that would be a fun exposure.
I mean, Milan is amazing. You will not regret even
Yeah.
just seeing it. It's I mean, not everything translates, but it's just what a show.
Yeah.
What a show. So it's worth it, well worth it to go and see it. And there's some really great if you compare it with a little bit of an antique store. I know that that sounds kind of strange because it's so modern, but if you
Mhm.
pair it with a little because you're there anyway in this great area to do a little antiquing, it's
Mm.
the best of the best. I mean,
Oh,
you're
I
just
would love to. Yeah.
ideas that will definitely set you up for years to come because they're ahead of us. I mean, they're ahead of us in some ways. But I also think we're ahead of them in some ways. So well, I love get to hear that you're so process driven. I am too. I'm fascinated by process. I love numbers. I love data. You know, what KPIs are you tracking on a monthly basis, weekly basis that really help you? You don't have to go through everything, but like
Yeah.
what is it that you think is the most important?
Well, I am always looking at so we do have a tasking system for our employees. And so we are looking at how quickly we're moving through those tasks to make sure that our process efficiency is actually working. That one's really key because we now have been more profitable per project and we have this great pipeline. But if we're not getting these people through the process in an efficient manner, then we're not able to even touch that pipeline. And then we're booking out so far that we're losing interest.
Right.
So that is, I think, a really key one, making sure that my team is working efficiently and that they're able to turn around the tasks. And if not, not to criticize them, but why? What's happening? What's the roadblock? What's stopping you? And we need to be able to find those bottlenecks. That's one. I think it's always really important. If you've ever gone through any growth phases in your company, to know how much cash you have, to know how much profit you have at any given point, because that is huge. It's
It
just a
is.
necessity, and you want
It
to
is.
know that.
Honestly, an investment of like, you know, I know so many designers who are, you know, we can get very like laser focused on growth and not
Mhm.
recognize that growth doesn't necessarily always mean more money or
Yes.
in your own pocket.
Yep.
So that's the other factor of it and more time for yourself, which is the
Mhm.
biggest asset we all have because I love that you really do still very much value even though you're very process driven and business oriented, you really do you know, want to spend time with your kids. You want to go
Yeah.
hiking, you wanna go outside and be a normal person just like, you know, I do. So I think that it's really important that you really analyze the numbers and is the juice worth the squeeze? Am I
Yep.
going and growing for the sake of growing an eco and I wanna have this size firm, or am I growing because it's
Right.
actually beneficial to my business?
Right. And I do feel like I always am questioning that as we're continuing to grow, is this actually enhancing my lifestyle? And in a lot of ways it is, yes, because there were stresses where I was at one point doing all the drafting and all the designing of the cabinetry, and taking that off of my plate has been something that has been a huge relief. So now having my cabinetry division, I am not working late hours. I'm not having to wear all these different hats. I can focus on being in the visionary seat and having other people who are overseeing that department. So I do really appreciate that because it's helped my lifestyle. I'm constantly, this is just a piece of my life. As much as I love my business and I love my people, I have my own family and children, and this is just a part. So I don't want
Right.
to lose sight of that.
Of the big things, the things that are important to
Yeah.
you as a and you wanna look back on your life and be like, "Well, I had built a great business." That's it.
Right. Yes.
You know? One of the things I also love about your business, is that you tackled kitchens
Mhm.
because not every designer is able to do that. There's a risk management analysis. Kitchens can be where people lose a lot of money if you're not dead nuts accurate. So
Yeah.
having really strong skills in drafting and measurement and making
Yep.
sure that everything is being a very detailed oriented person, and you can even see it. I'm sure now that you go to KBIS, you go to High Point, they're not the same designers.
No.
If
Yeah.
you can look at the way they dress, look at the way they act, the way
Yes.
they are
That
not the same designers.
they're
These
not.
two do not look the same. So, what made you want to take that on? And did you do a risk analysis on that and go for it? How did you take that into the business?
Yeah. I mean, there is risk. We started out with very basic kitchens. And so I think that was good exposure initially. And then we really got hyper focused in representing brands that we trust. So making sure that we're producing good products and being able to notice those little differentiators, the reveals and the way that the cabinet slides work and all of that to make sure that we're getting good product to our clients. And the reason why we really liked to do it was because there's one person overseeing the entire thing. So the complaint from our client, again, client experience is important. So they were saying when they're building a house, they have to go to a kitchen and bath place, and then they have to go to a tile place, and then they have to go to a plumbing place, and then they have to go to a lighting showroom, and then they have to go think about their furniture, where we could essentially, truncate that entire process and be a one-stop shop for them so that they can come to us and you have the same visionary. So it gives you a much more cohesive design if you have someone who's looking at your kitchen cabinetry and also selecting your bar stools, because they know that what's going to fit and what's going to work properly in that kitchen. It's like, we have a
Right.
lot of cool tones. We need to warm it up with, let's do something that has like a rope detail or a caning detail or something along those lines. And having that visionary that's looking at the whole thing is really, really important. It also was always our in. Most people think that if they look at enough Pinterest boards that they can decorate their own house. And they can to a degree. They don't need any specialties or anything like that in order to order furniture. There's a lot of trial and error with that, I'm sure, on their part
Sure.
without going through the proper process. But if you start in someone's kitchen, no one's thinking, I'm going to design a kitchen by myself. They need you for that. And then that gets us in the door, and then they love the experience. And then we are able to liaison that into other work. So I think that it creates more cohesion and it's a smoother process for the client.
Do you think that tools have come a long way? I mean, this is just a personal observation looking at so many designers every day. I feel like those worlds are colliding. I'm
Mhm.
seeing NKBA showing up at High Point Market. I am seeing designers who are traditionally High Point Market now exhibiting at KBIS.
Mhm.
So I feel like these worlds are coming together. And I think a little bit of it is technology is moving so fast and people are kind of being relieved from the stressors of and the risks of these more detail oriented jobs. In 10, 15 years, are we going to see designers who don't do kitchen and bath and whole home? I don't know. I mean, I think it feels like it's coming together from an outside perspective.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I noticed KBIS at High Point, but I,
Yeah,
I mean, that
it is.
makes sense.
I think 2 markets ago, and they're going into an installation now together, like as a
Oh,
team.
that's
So I
awesome. I
expect it
think that's
going forward.
such a need, because if you're really doing a custom home well, you should be thinking of all of these things and how, when we're initially even,
The countertop, and then you have the bathroom in the primary.
yeah,
Do you want to play around with that? Do you want it to have a th at least the same feel? I mean, it doesn't have to, I mean, it won't look exactly the same, but it have the same, like, this is intentional. This is
right.
the same
You
thought process.
You don't want it to look choppy. You want to, and as we
No.
do our presentations, we're presenting the entire house. So all the finished samples for everything. And you should be able to look out at the table and it should all go. You should be able to pick up
Right,
any item and bring it into any other room and look like it at least went into the same house.
right,
And that's really our goal. So I think that that's a necessity. It's a wonderful thing in our industry is we should be thinking about all of these features and not just
right.
designing after the fact and thinking, oh man, it could have been so much better. And clients don't want throwaway dollars where, they've designed their kitchen and their bathrooms and then we're like, oh, it could have been so much better if, and then
Right.
they're
Oh my
undoing something
goodness.
they just did. And so
That
that's,
is a nightmare, right? I mean, that's a nightmare scenario for any homeowner because that's
yeah,
such an investment and those pieces are there for a long time. I mean,
yeah.
that's not cabinetry and countertops. They're not things you're going to toss away very quickly or flooring.
Yep.
So surfaces are entirely need to be as forward thinking and as artful and as really representing that client as you possibly can so that it has a length of investment. So
Yes.
I love that you're thinking of that and what do you think that is driving our industry further? Is there something that you think that we need to do as an industry coming from the outside and coming in and nestling into our world? What is it that you think that designers need to do differently? I can see a lot of things, but I'm just curious what you
Yeah.
think.
I hate to be like super trendy with my answer here, but I think we've got to use AI better.
I love it.
I know that I'm saying that because I still think that as designers, we're going to need to utilize that tool. So I heard it said that no one is going to be replaced by AI, but you're going to be replaced by designers who use AI well. And
Right.
so that's where I'm like, I want to be able to be on this end of things where I'm thinking ahead of it, not after the fact. And we have so many softwares and programs because we do have an industry where contractors especially are a little resistant to change and they're resistant to modernizing their process. I mean, we use QR codes on job sites and I cannot tell you the complaints I get from contractors on that. So I'm physically printing and doing the QR codes and, end.
Right.
So a lot of our programs don't talk well to each other. And I wish that that was something that was bridging the gap. So CAD doesn't talk well unless you're using, CAD 3D or Revit. That doesn't talk to SketchUp well. And then SketchUp has to then be plugged into Enscape to do photorealistic or whatever other plugin that you'd find. Or, if you're working in Pro Kitchens or 2020, you're importing that into your SketchUp model. But if you make a change in that software, it's not automatically getting changed on your on your SketchUp file. So if that's your process, like it is ours, now, if a client makes a late in the game change, I potentially have to change it in 4 different softwares.
Right.
Should be something that AI fixes for us so that my designers can work on designing and not work on little minute changes and making sure that the tile scaling isn't off.
I think it goes even further than that, it can help you figure out what is in stock once it starts
Mm,
to be able to research the product lines. It can help you. I already know it can help you with marketing and research,
sure.
competitor research, marketing, because I've taught it now several times in our world. Like you can go literally, who are my competitors? What differentiates me from my competitors? What can I do to get more clients? Who are the luxury businesses around me that service the same market that I'm servicing? How can I work with them better? Those questions will give you just asking ChatGPT those questions and telling them who you are and then training it who you are and then asking it. It's remarkable what it will
Those
bring
are
out. You
great
can, you
tips.
know, have a newsletter and that's actually interesting to past clients
Yeah.
so they do refer you. Something that is current, that is servicing them, being that thought leader about design, strong storytelling,
Yeah.
script writing. There's just so many things that AI can do to improve a business and connect a business with other businesses that are servicing the same industry. I mean, we are in a luxury industry, which it means we're not alone.
Yeah.
The country clubs that are near us, the day schools that are near us, the estheticians that are near us, the high-end hotels and restaurants and boutiques are all servicing our same clientele. How can we work together to gain, that collaboration with other businesses that are servicing the same market?
Yeah.
You
Those are
know, it's
great tips.
yeah, I mean, it's really I agree with you. AI is not going to go away. We can't be afraid of it. It is a new revolutionary tool within our toolbox. I mean, I can't 100% say that it isn't going to erode a certain market of our business. There are going to be maybe lower end design or e-design that they just want a cohesive look and that might go away with a certain level of client who doesn't care at all about customer service, but your market, I mean, come on. A busy professional is not going to be like, "Hey, ChatGPT, design my house."
Right. Yes. And the amount of information you then need to feed it in order to have
Right?
that.
I mean, and the mistakes you're going to make anyway because
Yeah.
ChatGPT lied to you. I
Right.
mean,
Well,
it's just
because there's so many designs I've looked at and I'm like, that's not buildable.
right?
That's not
That's
gonna
not
work
real.
out. It might set the stage, get you a good concept, get you started, but it's definitely not gonna take you to that next level yet. Uh,
Right.
However, efficiencies, all those things you
Efficiencies are
mentioned, yeah,
yeah.
contract review, things like that, I think ChatGPT is.
Right, and it will keep designers leaner
Mhm.
longer because it can act as hopefully as a productivity tool for a designer who, if you're thinking about hiring someone and you're not quite there yet, this is how you can increase your productivity and how your staff can increase their productivity to
Absolutely.
make efficiencies are the name of the game. I mean, that's how we stay, ahead of the times. Speaking of ahead of the times, what are your growth plans for your business today? Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years?
So I do see myself. I know that you were saying we had chatted offline about, showroom spaces and things like that. I am looking to set up a studio outside of where we are currently. We're just outgrowing our space. So new space is always important. I want to be doing less projects and be doing them to such a level of detail. I want the Bible for that, my quote unquote Bible for that project, to be no less than 500 pages long. Like, I want to be able to really do a custom design the way that it's intended to be, and get it down to all that minutia that I really enjoy.
Finishing details and, like, everything is lined up perfectly within the cabinets, and you're buying everything. Yeah, I love it.
And so there are a few designer models that I've enjoyed where they actually tell the client they're not even allowed to be there, and they do the install and they take that month and they execute on all these things down to the plates and the napkins and the towels and the soaps and everything else. So I would love to be able to have that where I just have more control of that. I would love to grow into a complete full service design build company where we can, have an architect join the team, have a contractor as a part of our team, just so that way I have exclusivity with those people. Not that the people that we partnership and have preferred relationships with, they're doing a great job for us. I actually love them, highly, highly recommend them. But having that extra level of control would be, I think, really, really great. We are, of course, always looking to increase our revenue and, but less clients and more scale per project.
Mm.
Because I think that's really when you're dealing with a team and you're dealing with project managers and you're dealing like that's the way we're set up. We have me and then we have two divisions, decor and cabinetry, and then we have purchasing and then we have project management. For them to not have to think about 50 projects, but to think about 15 really, really well, I think that's going to again enhance that client experience and really get us a better end result. So that's my goal.
I can think of a few designers that I'm going to introduce you to after this that have either accomplished that, or I think that you need to have, like, a core group of, like, 5 design friends that you have a text message with. I think every designer needs this, by the
Yeah.
way, who are kind of at your level or above it, that are trying
Mhm.
to do some things that you haven't done, or you have skills that they don't have, and that you guys can just chit chat with each other around the country, no competition, and just get to know each other on that basis, because I just can't imagine what you guys won't accomplish if you had that support system, very like-minded people behind you. So I'm like
Yeah.
thinking that I have to start doing that better for our community and introducing everyone to each other in a better way. But one last question that is really fun I'm going to ask is, if you could have dinner with any design icon, past or present, ever, who would it be and why?
My gosh. You're gonna laugh at me though,
I
because
don't care. I don't care.
I, as a little girl, the reason why I wanted to get into design, I used to get up. I would have every episode of Candace Olsen's
I love it.
TV show on HGTV, and I know that. Even in our industry, the whole HGTV thing is somewhat controversial. I don't know. I think that some people are doing
I
amazing, some people
it's
aren't.
a it
So
helped
good for
us.
them.
I don't think it hurt us. I really think more people know about the term interior designer because of
Yes.
HGTV. It's the
But
truth.
I absolutely loved her show, and I thought her personality was so fun, and she was family focused. There's so many things where I'm like, I want to do what she does, and I just felt like she would think of things I hadn't thought of, and So that was what originally spurred me into wanting to be an interior designer. I also love Bobby Burke. I think Bobby
Oh,
Burke
yeah, Bobby Burke is awesome too. They're
was,
both fantastic, so, I mean, I think great choices
yeah,
there,
well, thank
really
you.
great choices. Well, thank you so much, this has been so amazing, and I will make sure everyone can follow you and find you on Instagram and check out your business, and hopefully, you're gonna make a whole lot of friends from this, so
Thank you.
thank you. Have a
Sounds
great day. Bye.